Hey guys, how are you? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a review of a crime film from Argentina in Spanish language English subs, released in the year 2010, directed by Pablo Trapero, and this film is called Carancho. So Carancho is set in Buenos Aires, Argentina. You've got traffic accidents that are happening all the time, far too much. It's one of the worst accident rates in the world for Argentina, and you've got these people known as Carancho. So in English it's vultures, and what these vultures do, they rip off insurance companies. So they've got their own company that specialise in going to these crash sites first. They get the victims' families and they start to discuss insurance policies. But what they do is, say for example, they take $150,000 they get, and instead of paying the victims all the money, they give them only less than half, so they keep a lot for themselves. So this is the way of the world here in this part. And the main character, Sosa, played by Ricardo Darin, he is specialises in this, and so he starts doing his thing, and then he comes across a paramedic named Lujan. So he starts to fall in love with Lujan, and this is what causes him to second guess what he's doing. So he wants to be a good guy for Lujan's sake, and he doesn't want to involve this woman in what he's doing. So this angers his employers, and they don't want to let him go so easily, and this could cost Sosa his life, not only his life but also Lujan's. So they're in a lot of danger, and what happens at that point on whether or not they can get out of this ordeal, it's something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Carancho. This movie got my interest for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's from Argentina. Number two, it's got Ricardo Darin, who is a fantastic actor. And number three, it was nominated for the Best Foreign Film of the 2011 Academy Awards. I believe it was 2011. So it didn't win, but just being nominated gets my interest straight away. So I love foreign films, and when I see that one's been nominated, you can tell that it's got a lot of attention. So for that reason, it came with a lot of expectation. And unfortunately for me, Carancho didn't really live up to that expectation, but having said that, it's a very interesting film. So with Argentina, it's a beautiful country, but unfortunately on the roads it is absolutely crazy, and a lot of accidents happen. And I've seen a lot of accidents. I haven't actually seen them firsthand, but I know full well how crazy the roads are here in Argentina. No one really respects the road rules. No one wears seatbelts, no one wears helmets when they're riding bikes. So there is a lot of room for insurance companies and compensation lawsuits and all that kind of thing, and it happens a lot. And it was very interesting to see a different aspect of insurance and compensation, the people who leech off it, the people who are willing to rip these victims off, and it shows you that they've got no heart. But when you actually see why they're doing it, you get the sense that it's a way of survival here in Argentina for some people, in that it's a way to get money, and that a lot of this work placement is not fair. You've got Lujan, who is a hospital worker who is working tirelessly, but she's not really reaping the rewards that she deserves. And then you've got Sosa, on the other hand, who is on the opposite side of the law, who is reaping a lot more reward. So it does show you in Argentina that although someone might be making a lot of money, it doesn't necessarily mean they might be making it in a fair go. But then you stop and you think to yourself, well, sometimes the fair go is not good enough, and that shows you the way of the world outside of the West, outside of Australia, UK, USA. We take things for granted. But here in Argentina, it's a lot different, and I thought that was the most interesting aspect of Carancho, was that it was taking on the traffic problems here in Argentina, the road problems, and just how excessive the loss of life is, and how frequent the car crashes are. It's a very alarming and it's very disturbing, and for that matter, it was very dark. The film was done in a very dark way, and I thought it paid not so much respect, but it did it in a very reasonable fashion. It's a very dark subject matter, and the film does tackle a very dark subject tone. So for that, I thought it was very interesting, but unfortunately for me, I didn't think it utilised its full potential. It didn't really grab the bull by the horn, so to speak. It didn't really develop the characters to a satisfactory level. And by the end of the film, you think to yourself, yeah, it ended very well. The ending is absolutely fantastic. But before the ending, it's an ordeal to get through. So I'm thinking that a lot of people are going to struggle to finish Carancho, for the simple fact that it does drag. At the start of the film, you see this horrible car crash, you see what Sosa is doing, and then all of a sudden it hits this lull. There's this romance between the two main characters. You've got Ricardo Darin, who's a phenomenal actor, but his character, Sosa, is very interesting, but it's interesting in what he is doing, not so much in who he is. So it's not a very rich character. It's a character that is kind of felt like it's very hollow. It's cardboard cutout. You don't really care. You only care about what he does for a living. And then you've got Lujan, who's played by Martina Guzman, very good actress, but once again she feels very lackluster. So you've got two lackluster main characters that develop a romance, and the film does build on that solid foundation. You don't really care about it because the characters are not that likeable, and you just feel to yourself that they're just another, you could almost dismiss them as two supporting actors. They don't really feel like they grab your attention, and you don't really care about how these things are developing. You don't care whether or not Sosa is going to go on the straight and narrow, and you don't really care about Martina Guzman's character's plot as well. So yeah, it does get very talkative. There's a lot of dialogue. It is somewhat interesting, but after a while, that sort of the traffic accident approach, it is a unique sort of story, and it's a story that really happens, but after a while you can only take one element of a film so far. And unfortunately it does get very tiresome. It feels like it's a lot longer than it should be. The ending really strikes it home very well, but unfortunately it's an ordeal to get to that part, and therefore I was very disappointed with what I got from Carancho. So the acting is decent from what they have. The script is decent. The cinematography is very good. It's a very good looking film, although it's very, very dark. It does tackle the dark subject tone very well. But unfortunately for me, it's just a very tedious sort of film, and it's a film that I wanted so much more from, considering the fact that it was nominated for an Academy Award. But unfortunately for me, the expectation levels were just too high, and it came nowhere near meeting them. So overall for Carancho, not a terrible film, but it's not a brilliant film either, and I'm going to give it 3 stars. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.